No, man, but you got to keep going. What am I going to do, quit? That's not an option. You got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it? You make it work for you. You never give up, man. That's my philosophy.
Hey gardeners, hope you're all having a great week out in your gardens. As I've been mentioning over the last couple of weeks, I've been out in my spaces working hard, getting our gardens ready for all of our good summer crops. And then I was noticing this here. This here is lemon mint or lemon balm, and I had one of these plants in the back here go to seed, flower and go to seed, which was a big mistake, but luckily it hasn't shown up too much everywhere else. I've just been weeding it out as I've been finding it, but it sure took over this bucket. And look at this big old lemon plant here. But do you notice right here on the side? Those aren't the same leaves there. That's a different plant in there. You know what plant that is? Yeah, that's a potato. So we've got some leftover potatoes that were in this bucket as well too. So I thought this was fun and interesting, so I thought I would share it with you. We've got some potato and lemon mint growing together. We'll have to see what we get. So we've got some great guests for you here today, everybody. So all right, let's get growing. All my passionate plant people and garden enthusiasts. Welcome to Let's Get Growing show right here on the Urban Gardener channel. My name's Enoch. I'm your host today. We've got a really awesome show ahead for you today. I'm really excited about our guests that we have for you coming up here on the show. We're going to be bringing back a couple of guests here to the channel anyways, but we've got Dr. Jeff Pierce coming to join with us again here on the show, and we're going to be talking all about gardening as medicine. We had a great conversation with him here before when he was on the show last time, and I can't wait to talk to him again too. And we're going to also talk about something else as far as something that we got coming up for later shows. And as well too, we've got our good friend Cameron Akrami from The Busy Gardener, as I said, returning guest in a way. We did a video with him a few years back. I went to go visit his gardens at his place a few years back ago, so it's been a while. So I'm really excited about catching up with my good friend Cameron and seeing how things are growing on in his garden over there as well too. So we'll have him on here in just a few minutes as well too. So again, everybody, thank you so much for being here. What a great show, and it's so great to have you here with us as well too. And if you can, real quick, you know the drill right here at the top of the show, hit the like button, thumbs up, as well as subscribe, and hit the bell notification to be notified of all of our upcoming videos and live streams, as well as share with all your friends. Yeah, don't keep our show a secret. Let all of your friends know, all your garden friends, garden groups, garden wherever you got garden people that would love to hear from really great garden communicators from around the whole world. I mean, just look at the guests that we've had on this show. We have some wonderful conversations talking all about gardening here every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. And some weeks that does come with a caveat too, because I always say every Saturday and Sunday, but sometimes, and this is kind of happening a couple of times still, might happen maybe once more or so. It depends on kind of how things go this next week, but I do have to take next Saturday off. I did that the last week or so ago too as well, but I'm sorry, I've got some things I've got to do, and Saturday and the weekend is really the only time slot that works for me and the other parties and all that sort of stuff. So I really apologize about that coming up so last minute, but I do want to let you know here at the top of the show that yes, next Saturday again too. I'm sorry, and I will kind of warn that it might happen one more time. Maybe, I'm not sure, but I'll find out, and I will let you know when that comes up as well too. But definitely most every Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for all of you over on the East Coast, and adjust your time zones for all the rest of you from around the world. Because like I said, we got such a great worldwide, great audience here, as well as a worldwide guests that we have coming from all over. So you definitely don't want to miss out. Huge shout out to all of you who are joining us on our replay, though, too. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show. I really appreciate you taking your time to catch up with us and all of these great conversations we're having here on the Let's Get Growing show. Definitely jump into the comment section below. Let me know you were here. Let me know what you got growing on. I love to hear from all of you, even if you just want to drop by and say hi. So definitely do that if you can, for sure. If you have any questions or comments for all of you here joining with us live today here on the show, definitely jump in to the chat there and let us know if you got any questions, especially for our guests when we got them on the show here coming up. Put them in nice big bold capital letters so I can see the questions from the rest of the conversation. And definitely, if you haven't yet as well too jumped in and said hi or introduced yourself to the chat, definitely do so. And if you've got any channels or small channels, let us know that you've got your own little small channel out there that you want to get a little shout out for here on the show. We've got our good friend Jay Dixon joining with us on the show here, who will make sure to get a link put out for you in your channel as well too, because we love to share the community love around here on the Let's Get Growing show, and share all of your wonderful channels out there as well too. So again, thank you all for being here. Let's say hi to everybody. Jay Dixon, like I said, joining us from Huron County, Midwestern Ontario, Canada, our facilitator of the show. Keep an eye out for links in the chat there. Jay will be dropping links in as we're going through the show today. That'll help you either, like I said, other channels or information that we're talking about, all sorts of great stuff. Keep an eye out there. Thank you, Jay, for facilitating our show. I see we've got our good friend Rick joining us from the future over there in Australia. He's a day ahead of us, bright and early in the morning too. Thank you, Rick, for joining with us. And he says, happy International Naked Gardening Day. Well, happy International Naked Gardening Day to all of you out there who celebrate. I have told people for many years here on this channel that I don't think you'll ever catch me. I do tell this story every now and then. I did think about it many years ago. I did one of those pictures, you know what I mean, where, you know, all I did was had the no shirt on, and I just took it from kind of like the shoulders up. So it kind of gave the idea that, and that was about as close as I've ever gotten to actually doing something or celebrating Naked Gardening Day at all. And just that picture, I don't know, maybe someday I'll try to look it up and dig it out or something and share it. You know, I could probably go that far, I suppose. But I've been looking through my social media this morning too, and I see there's a ton of people out there already celebrating, and it's just really fun. It's really great. It's just just not me though. But you all have have a lot of fun with Naked Gardening Day for sure. You see Rob's Allotment Gardening join us from the UK. Look at this. I see already, like I said, our first 3 shout outs already here from all around the world. You know what I mean? I haven't even got to anybody here in the States yet. But thank you all so much for being here with us today. Thank you for joining us. Let's see. Cheryl says I won't be doing that one either. Yeah, exactly. I'm not really doing that at all. Right on. Let's see here. And Cheryl says hello to everyone. Thank you for joining with us. Thank you so much, Cheryl. Thanks for being here, everybody. It's really great to have you here. I see we got, is it AL or Al? We'll go with Al. Anyway, it says, please talk about moringa. I'd talk more about moringa if I actually grew moringa, but I don't know. Maybe our guests have. Well, maybe I'll drop some moringa question there in with the guests here just a little bit later in the show there. We could see if we could talk about it. I've never really grown it. I've thought about it. In fact, I had someone send me some seeds years ago. I just never put them in the ground. I don't know. Maybe I should give them a try. Go dig them out and see about it and do that. Right on, right on. And I see my Renaissance grandma in the chat as well too. Thanks for jumping in. Thanks for saying hello. Like I said, everybody jump on in there and say hi. And it's great to see all of you. See Beverly in there as well too. Thank you. And let's see here. Jersey girl. Rick was excited about Naked Gardening Day last year too. Some people are, again, like I said, I've been going through my social media, and I got tons and tons of gardening friends and people and all of that. And I've already seen a ton of people with a ton of pictures out there already. And again, too, it's something every year. It's just, I don't know. Maybe someday, I don't know. All right, everybody. Thank you again for joining with us here today. We got a lot going on. We've got some great guests here ahead for all of you. Just real quick update though too. I'm going to be putting out a video here coming out on Tuesday. It's going to be kind of our first kind of, we're going to call it a spring garden tour. So we're kind of readjusting, doing some stuff. I've been hard at work on a lot of kind of gardening related, just kind of fixing things and doing stuff all around, repairing, all sorts of stuff over the last few weeks. So we're kind of resetting, getting things geared up for our summer crops. We've got tons of peppers, tomatoes, eggplants. I got all sorts of starts coming up, and we got to get all these spaces ready. So I'm going to take you through, kind of show some things, kind of show about what we're looking at for some future projects that we're going to be doing around the gardening spaces and all of that as well too. So look forward to that coming out on Tuesday, a video pre-garden tour for one of our garden journals. I'm just going to kind of give you guys a look at everything. It's been a while since we've had a real kind of look around at all of the different garden spaces, and it'll give us a good starting point too, to kind of see where things go as we move on into the coming weeks of our garden season. So lots and lots growing on. And like I said, be sure to keep an eye out for that video coming up on Tuesday, as well too, probably on Thursday or so. I'm going to release another video in our pepper growing series. We've got lots to show when it comes to that. I'll take you through how I grow my peppers throughout the whole gardening season. So we'll keep an eye out for another video on that as well too. So right on. Let's get moving on here. I'll be right back here in just a moment, and we'll get to talking with our very first guest of the day.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with Ivory Organics, where we grow cool plants, and author, Saving the World with the Home Garden. Ivory Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pests, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
Hi everyone, this is Sarah from Sarah's Seed Shop, here with this week's trivia question. Approximately how many species of brassicas are there? A, 500, B, 2,200, C, 3,100, or D, 3,700? We'll be back with the answer a little later in the show.
All right. Do you know the answer to Sarah's trivia question there? This one actually got me. I gave my best guess, and I had it wrong myself. So I'll admit that right out front. But give your guess for what the answer is to Sarah's trivia question here this week here, and we'll get to her answer here just a little bit later in the show in our next break. But it's time to move on to our first guest of the show, and I'm excited about this guest because, like I said, we got to visit his garden. I've got a video out. I should have put a link below, but maybe we can get Jay to hunt down the link for the Busy Gardener when he was here to visit, or when I was there to visit his garden on our regular YouTube. We can get a link in the chat there for everybody if you want to be able to check out that video of when we got to visit Cameron, our very first of the guest of the day for our segment. Are you following me?
Are you following me? Are you following me, dude?
So, all right, everybody. Let's welcome to the show Cameron Akrami, the Busy Gardener. Oh, hey, what's going on, Cameron?
Well, hey, Enoch, I thought we were both going to be celebrating International Naked Gardening Day. But if you're not going to, it's just going to be me. So here we go. No. No. Had you worried for a second?
I love it.
Oh my gosh.
Great. What a day. What a day. It's like I always say, I say it all the time, even before we were doing the show. I even put out on some videos before, like, no, just not the day you're going to see me do that. I think I even did some sort of similar thing like you did years and years ago. And then, as I was telling everybody earlier, I did one shot one time and I never did put it out because I was that was as close as I've gotten. And I never did even put it out at all, but it was just like a shoulder up with my just naked shoulders. And
yep.
I don't know, but I see, like I said, there's so many people who love it and enjoy it and have fun with it, and the pictures are kind of fun and interesting, and
yep.
So I love to see that people have fun with it. Anything fun in the garden has got to be great. It's fun to celebrate. Anyways, Cameron, great to see you. I was just telling everybody, and like I was saying, I think probably Jay is dropping a link, hopefully here in a minute or two, probably to the video we did a few years back when I got to come and visit you and check out your garden. So I want to talk all about that coming up here as well too, because when I got to visit, you really had just mainly the orchard, which was in the back area and all of that. So I want to learn about what happened since then, because you had a lot of plans about things you were going to do. So, but first and foremost, let's go ahead and give you a minute here to introduce yourself to everybody. Let everybody know about Cameron Akrami, the Busy Gardener, and then we'll dig into all of your garden journey.
Yeah, I'm Cameron. Hi, everybody. And based here in Southern California. So we're zoned like 9B, 10A, depending on what's going on. And live here on our half-acre property. We have 5 kids from ages almost 9 to 15. And so have really come to love gardening, growing, and being able to taste. I don't know why things taste different when you grow it yourself. I know that they don't maybe taste different, but there's something that's deeply satisfying about growing your own food. And so it's been a fun journey. It started actually about 13 years ago. I planted my first plant, which was actually it was 9 plants. It was 9 trees. So I kind of bit off a lot. You guys had, I think Tom was on last week, Tom Spellman.
Yeah.
And so it was just spur of the moment. I was watching these videos. My wife was super pregnant with our second child. And I was watching these videos on doing this high density, backyard orchard culture style. Mm-hmm. And I watched these videos and I thought, I could do this. And I said, I'm going to go to a nursery. And I came back with 9 trees. They went in the ground in a small space, about the space of a car. And that was our first foray really into growing. And so it's been a little bit of a trial by fire, but I got bit by the bug, and it's just been so much fun to do that for ourselves and also to share our experiences online and share a lot of things that I've learned, because that was so helpful for me to watch those videos, especially with Tom early on. So it's been a lot of fun to be able to share that with people over the last few years.
Yeah, exactly. I got a similar story, but that was literally like those trees were like the first plants for you, nothing before. I mean, house plants, like, that sort of thing. Did you get into growing anything before? That was really your first thing?
Yeah, I mean, my wife had maybe put in some veggies into kind of this raised
Okay.
bed
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
put together, but or
That's
maybe there's some random succulent that you get as like a centerpiece
yeah,
from a
yeah,
birthday party or something.
yeah.
That seems to be the one thing that we kill, by the way, routinely is succulent. We put
Oh, me
they're supposed to
too.
be the easiest things, but we put the
Me
suck in succulents. We're just really
That's
bad at
right.
growing them.
I share that with you for sure. Absolutely. I can't keep a sucking alive for nothing. And I've done everything from, over carrying to kill them to under carrying to kill them. And
That's it.
I can't find the happy medium when it comes to those things for sure.
The easiest way for me to grow succulents is to give them to somebody else and let
There
them
you
do
go.
it because
That's right.
it's
That's right. That's definitely the best way for sure. But yeah, that's great though. I love that kind of story because it's similar to mine in a sense. I'd already, grown house plants. I had a love for plants and growing and hiking, and trees were a big fascination for me for many years, my early teen or my late teens, early adulthood and stuff. So there was some kind of that sort of stuff, but growing my own food or doing that sort of thing was something that like literally about 13, 14 years ago for me was, something completely new. And I got my first like, cucumber start. And I just remember
Mhm.
just that empowerment of growing my own food or just doing that sort of thing on that level. And then the bug hit me just like and we're on almost a similar timeline of discovery in a sense when it comes to that level of growing.
It's a lot of fun. I know one of the biggest things that could be a challenge is somebody feeling just really intimidated. And it's been interesting to just do this as a hobby because there's always some tweaking. I'm kind of a natural tinkerer. And I think that really lends itself to gardening because you're always trying to find a better way to do something or solve little problems as they come up. And so it naturally keeps me a little bit engaged. I think a lot of other hobbies, I've kind of had a lot of interest over the years. And there's like getting to a point of competence, and then you kind of have gotten there and you've been there and done that. And with planting and growing, whether it be fruit trees or stuff in our garden, there's always something that is cropping up. There's some threat that's coming in. If it isn't the bugs, then it's the birds. If it's not the birds, then it's the ground squirrels. If it's not that, then it's gophers or nutsedge or weeds or whatever. And
Mhm.
so provides kind of a continual challenge, which I think is part of the bug for me. It is the end result, but it's kind of a sweet victory when you have kind of battled against the elements, especially when you've got a bit of space and have planted a lot of your space like we have. When something actually survives and thrives, it feels really, really rewarding because we know that there are all these different threats that are coming in.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Right on. So let's talk about so when I was there several years back, gosh, I can't even remember how many years. It was a little while back ago. This is
Yeah,
like
maybe 4 years, 5 years.
pre-COVID, all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, you that's pretty much what you had. You had like this really cool, like steeped backyard, I remember. And we
Yep.
walked up kind of to the top, and that's where your orchard was, and you had all the great trees and just all this wonderful stuff up there. But you were planting all of this great garden stuff down below in these different, I think, tiers or whatever. Am I
Yeah,
correct? Am
that's
I
right.
remembering this correctly?
Yep. Yeah, you got it. Yeah, we're where I'm sitting right now. So our property has undergone some real major changes over the last 5 years. Part of it,
Okay.
the garden beds you're talking about, which are kind of terraces, were to solve a problem. We had just a massive bunch of erosion and water runoff onto our patio, flooding, and so
Mm,
we really built these stepped garden beds, these terraces to help with all of that erosion issue. But
yeah.
because we love growing, it also gave us like 1,000 square feet of gardening space.
Right.
And so it was
That's
cool to be able to do that. And then the other part of it was where I'm sitting right now was part of our orchard. This is actually a guest house that we built for my in-laws to come and essentially move in. And
okay.
so a bunch of the trees that we had ringed this kind of just cement pad that was like an old basketball kind of little thing. And
Yeah.
so we removed this entire half of the orchard. There may be 12 trees that we removed to build this guest house. And so,
Oh,
yeah, our
okay.
space has changed quite a bit. The bulk of our trees are still there, but some of my
Yeah.
favorites we had to take out in order to
Oh,
do this building project. Some of the pluots and plum and a couple of the
yeah.
pomegranates just killed me.
Oh man,
Because there's
those.
some of our favorites. They're really killer varieties, like the Flavor Grenade Pluot, even the Santa Rosa Plum, which is an old variety, but just so tasty. It's just
Mm,
really tough to. It was an easy decision because we were really for building our family into something that's like multi-generational, and so it was
yeah.
an easy yes from that side. But to
Mhm.
know that we're not going to get another planting season or growing season with those trees was rough because we really enjoyed those fruit.
Yeah, yeah, that would be tough, in a sense, but kind of like an easy, hard decision at the same time. It's yeah, I can imagine that. But the day where you got to actually take them out had to have been a rough day for sure.
It was rough. I was there, and it was crazy. Almost just I don't know. This is gonna sound weird, but just the violence in which the backhoe just comes in, just like rips this tree out, and
Uh,
there's some fruit on it, and the fruit was falling. It just,
oh
it
no.
felt like it could have been put in a slow mo with some dramatic music, and it would have been really heartbreaking to watch.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It would have been, and having been there as well too. I don't know. That would have been another decision, I suppose. That would have been difficult for me. One way you want to be there, like "Oh, I got to be there. These were my trees. I grew them, and you got
Yeah,
that level of attachment to these things at that point, But at the same time, I don't want to see that either.
yeah. It's like, I mean, it's kind of like in some ways putting a pet down or something. It's
Right, right,
um, not as heartbreaking
exactly.
as that, but
Y-
yeah, just
Yeah.
as a random aside, if you want, I'm mobile on my platform here, and so I can grab and I can point a couple of things out if you have any
Oh,
curiosity about
you
the
want to?
layout or whatever.
I'm sure everybody would love to take a look at some trees if you wanted to show us around real quick here. We do
Yeah,
got
want
about
to
a
go?
good, yeah, yeah, we do got a few minutes here. We could do that.
Oh, am I able to swap
Yeah.
my camera around from this angle? I'm not even sure.
Does it do that? You would be from
Well,
your side that you'd have to see. You'd
here
have
we
that
go.
little flip. There you go. Oh wow, there you go.
All right,
Right
so
on.
yeah, it's pretty grown with a bunch of weeds. We put a bunch of mulch. It's been a pretty mild season with more moisture than normal, so it's yeah, everything's growing like crazy here. And so, yeah, this is our orchard. Everything. I think I've discovered that springtime is probably my favorite time in the orchard because everything is either blooming or fruiting. Nothing's really gotten
Mhm.
beat up by the sun yet, and so
Right.
um,
It's all
and there's
fresh
our
and new and
all
green.
fresh.
Yeah.
And like even coming out and smelling the citrus
Mm,
blossoms that I'm standing next to on this
that's amazing.
yeah, a couple of these like tangelo trees. But yeah, we've got a lot. These have really matured even since you were here a few years ago. Like here are a couple of jujubes that I'm having to prune for height. The reddish tree you see there is our Spice Z nectarplum. Got some
Yeah.
nectarines over there, some avocados, cherries, which are starting to redden up. Ooh, I can see some red from over here. Awesome.
Oh,
Gigantic persimmon right here. So
yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, so we've got a lot going on in this small space, maybe around, I think we're probably around 2,500 square feet. We have maybe
Yeah.
30 trees or so
Did you have to
planted.
get rid of your passion fruit vine? I remember that was you had a big, big
The passion
passion
fruit
fruit.
vine was gorgeous. Actually, I'll show you on this side what had happened. So
Uh,
we ran into an issue where we had these scale insects took
oh
over and
no.
just decimated the passion fruit. So that's all that's left of the passion fruit right now is just the twigs from it, which is really heartbreaking because the vine was gorgeous. It was so prolific. It fruited so continually. But it is kind of a short-lived plant, as it turns out. So even though
Oh,
within the span of a season, it took over an entire 40-foot span of fence, they only
yeah.
last 3 to 4 years. So we would have been replanting
Oh,
a passion fruit anyway.
okay. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that they were that short. See, Beverly is asking, how big is your property?
So our entire property is a half acre. I'll flip this around so you can see some more of the
Yeah.
stuff. So outside this gate, we've got these garden beds, and this is what we're talking about. So this is our primary
So that
growing
was
area. We've got,
all just dirt, and you were just laying all of that out when I was there last
actually, I'll
time.
zoom this out a little bit so you can see it a little better. So that's
Yeah.
one half of it. We've got a kind of a mulberry planted over on that side there, mulberry and some blackberries in that corner, everbearing mulberry. And then on this side, we've got another set of garden beds. All the stuff that you see growing in here right now are cover crops. We planted a bunch of cover crops to deal with. We had a real issue with nutsedge and infestation, and
Mm,
so we cleared most. We used solar, and we solarized all of that with black tarps, and then replaced that with all of this cover crop to build the soil back up and also to crowd out any of that weed stuff. So yeah, it's been a success. I have to go through and whack these down because when they're flowering,
Yeah.
next step is seeds, and after that, we don't want them to be perennials in our garden bed. We
No.
want to be really planned
Oh, my.
about that.
Yeah. As I showed at the very beginning, I made the
Yep.
mistake of letting some lemon mint go to seed, and boy,
Oh,
oh boy, it's popping
no.
up all over the place. And I'm like, oh, everywhere I see, I got to pull it. And it really ultimately isn't as bad as I was worried when I noticed that the plant had, because it was just behind some stuff. And I was like, oh no, I can't believe I did that. And yeah, so, but yeah, you got to do that sometimes. You got to deal with some of those little mistakes you make. Sometimes you let some things go to seed, and you're pulling out things that are really good. I don't mind keeping a couple of those things in some containers here and there
Yep.
around the garden, but I don't want it all over my garden.
Yeah, those really invasive things, you kind of sometimes learn the hard way, or you have somebody come alongside and say, hey, we all love mint, but it really
Yeah.
does belong in a container.
Yeah,
Unless you want
exactly.
only mint, because it's just going to pop up in everything almost forever.
Yeah, that, and for me as well too, or you have to segregate some space or whatever really well
Yeah,
too.
that's
But
right.
raspberries, I love raspberries, and I put raspberries right in the middle of a garden bed when I first started gardening.
Oh, that's a rookie mistake.
Oh, I'm gonna grow some stuff all around these raspberries.
Yeah.
They're gonna be right in the middle. It's gonna look really cool later on.
I just sorry, this is live on this live stream, but I just discovered that we have a rooster. We were raising 26 hens.
Oh wow.
And it turns out, because I just heard a crow right now,
Yeah.
it turns out I guess that we have 25 hens and one rooster. Can you hear them?
Oh,
Is that coming through?
I didn't hear him. No,
Oh my gosh. Okay, well anyway, that's going to be another story.
I might have been talking over it though myself though, but
I will say that's one thing that's been interesting.
Discovery.
Having see, kind of a pro tip, if somebody's ever had chickens or considered chickens create a real symbiosis in an orchard setting, where they will keep the pest pressure way down if you allow them to free range during the day, because they will go and get all of that stuff, grubs in the ground. They'll find little insects and pests and just take care of them.
Yeah.
And so yeah, they'll also eat a lot of weeds. These are brand new hens that we have, so we haven't let them out, and that's why we have as many weeds as we do. But they'll come out and eat pretty much everything on the ground. They'll take care of.
Yeah, that's a great idea too. And I've got alleyway space, and we're working on maybe building a chicken coop or something in the next season or so. So we were working on maybe having chickens around here as well too. But I like the idea of them being able to kind of run around the alleyway and just feed off of whatever bugs and whatever. There's so many things that I got to deal with when it comes to those sort of things that they can pick at, or the big ones, those pincher bugs, earwigs.
Yep. Oh yeah,
Oh,
totally.
gosh.
That can
Oh,
come in
gosh.
and
Let 'em
decimate
go.
crops. Yeah.
Yeah, they can, and I get a lot of them around here.
We haven't had too many earwigs. We have them. We have like little pill bugs and things. Yeah, I know Jersey Girl does look. It seems like more than half an acre. We've got a pretty rectangular lot, and our house is based like it's way in the front, and so we have a lot of space behind. And also this fence here, there's an alleyway behind that, so our property goes to this fence line. So it kind of is a little bit deceptively far out there.
Yeah.
On the fruit trees and chickens, I tell most people that even if you're somebody who's busy, fruit trees and chickens have for us been some of the lowest maintenance
Yeah.
conditions. They're easy to grow. They kind of tend to themselves most of the time. You don't have to be on top of them like you do for veggies and things. And so actually that's one reason that,
Great idea.
yeah, name the channel The Busy Gardener, because I'm busy. I've got a life that's full with a bunch of things that matter to me. And so I've tried to embrace things that don't take a ton of time, but work with somebody who's got a busy lifestyle. And so we found that the fruit trees and chickens fit the bill really, really well. You get a lot of ROI for the amount of time spent, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's great. A busy gardener. I was, I'm a very, very busy person too. I'm multitasking all day long, every single day. That's my life and everything. And I'm like, oh man, he already got my channel name. No, but yeah, I totally get it. Exactly. And finding those sort of things that work well for a busy lifestyle is a great way to because a lot of people live that way and also want to be able to grow and do some things. So it's good to be able to learn about that. What got you to sharing and deciding to start a channel and do that anyways though too, what along your gardening journal, inspired you
Yeah,
to jump on YouTube or social media and start sharing about your gardening?
yeah, it boiled down to having received so much from people like Tom Spellman and other gardening channels, and realizing that I think there's a confidence issue, especially when it comes to fruit trees. It's weird. A lot of the connections with some of these bigger YouTube channels like Kevin Espiritu with Epic Gardening and Kyle Haggerty up north um, in Sacramento with Urban. The I don't remember what his thing is right now. I'm spacing, but he
Farmstead.
it was in. Huh?
Farmstead, Urban Farmstead.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, these are like really large channels that I have so much respect for. They were reaching out to go, hey, I'm kind of stuck on the fruit tree thing. And I think there's a real intimidation around fruit trees because the tree is expensive. You get worried that you're going to kill it. And so I think that giving people confidence to buy a tree, knowing that it actually is pretty, I don't want to say difficult to kill a tree. You can kill a tree, but they're a lot more resilient than somebody would initially think. And I wanted to give the confidence to be able to spend the money, put a tree in, and then enjoy that. Because I think sometimes people start with like a garden bed, they end up planting some seeds, they start small, and then they find that their veggies, either they forget to water a day, so they all die immediately, or it kind of gets out of hand. You get some sort of vining thing that goes crazy. So I think that scares a lot of people off. So
Yeah.
maybe they get intimidated from having started what they thought was going to be small, but it ended up being more than they thought. So I
Mhm.
think just demystifying some of that was really important to me. And again, it's really exciting. I mean, over the years now, there have been so many comments of people who've been inspired and more than that, just encouraged or
Yeah.
feel like they've been given permission to try some of these things and been given confidence to do it. And that's
Yeah.
really rewarding for me because I think that's actually the nut that I'm trying to crack is helping people to get over the hump. And I've had trees die.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's my fault, sometimes it's just the placement or whatever the case is. But
Mhm.
by and large, everything is pretty much lived, and they're kind of just some very basic principles that if they're observed, you can do, you will succeed in
Mhm.
planting fruit trees.
Yeah, exactly. And I like that sense of kind of giving back a little bit from what you got from, these other folks doing that. Because that was this kind of a similar thing for me as well, too, and I think for a lot of folks out there who are sharing and then creating their own channels and all of that are, they've learned from others. And so now they're inspired to share with who they can as well, too. And I think that's really awesome because that's what really can help someone get over that hump, as you say, is someone, again, which is cool with being able to share like this in these times is regular folks, just out doing and sharing and growing in their gardens, like you said, helping inspire or get other folks to do that as well too, because they're just seeing regular folks doing it. You go see a video of someone succeeding at something, or like you're doing right now, letting them know that they can also not succeed and be all right with that as well too.
Yeah, you learn. I mean, that's part of life is you're going to learn from your failures
Hmm.
almost as much or maybe even more, I think, than the successes that you have. They're going to stick with you more and you're going to really kind of activate some part of what you do. And I'll say this too. I think this is a really important thing. And I think it's COVID kind of created a strange situation with this where I think it's so easy to be stuck in your head because so much of what people do is conceptual. And I
Hmm.
think being just grounded, literally grounded in reality, something that has a cause and effect and you can see it. I think there's something really just gratifying deeply. I don't know, something just is touched in a way that just talking about ideas or thinking through things doesn't do the same thing. I don't think it activates the same part of our humanity to
Mhm.
just stay in ideas all the time. I think there's something really important about getting your hands in the dirt, seeing something grow, the success and the failure of that. Because
Yeah.
this is real world. It's not just kind of a made up social media world or whatever you want to call it. It's dealing with reality. I think is something that most people could benefit from.
Yes, definitely. And again, too, that as a part of all of the things that we get back from a garden, or and all of that is what makes it so great. We got a great guest coming on here later in the show. We're going to be talking about all of these other benefits that we get from gardening that we don't even think about too. So you think about a lot of things you could get into and you could do,
Mhm.
like hobbies, or set up a train set or something, and you get to do the trains, or think about other things you do. But you do something, you set it, and there it is, right? But with gardening, there's just so much more that encompass it and comes with that sort of thing. So you don't just get started and do something and plant something and then there you go and you just enjoy it. It grows, you care for it, and in the sense of growing food, it produces something you can eat, then makes you healthier. And again, too, as we're going to be talking again with our next guest and everything too, the activity, all of these sort of things that we get from the growing experience that just make it so amazing altogether, and really it does. And that's one of the things I think is one of the main reasons why it's I believe so great that so many people are out there pushing like yourself and encouraging others through your own experiences how to grow and get things started themselves so that they can find and enjoy those sort of experiences too.
It's regular people. I think it can
Mhm.
feel a little discouraging when you see you go on some of the YouTube videos are from ag departments at universities, and you're thinking, this is geared around a commercial grower who's going to be driving a tractor through. I'm just a dude in a suburb, how
Yeah,
do I? And I think that as people even look at this, you might think, well, I could never do that. Okay, I'm not even saying do that. I didn't start with this. I
right.
started with literally the space. I mean, not even the space of this patio. I have nine
Right.
nine trees. You could just start with one tree or get a little raised garden bed. But I think it also gives an element of confidence. Some of the weird supply chain stuff that happened during that pandemic, we felt a little bit insulated from that because
Mhm.
we had some skills and we were able to take and parlay some of those things. It wasn't this, I think we didn't feel some of the panic that a lot of people did. And it doesn't have to be that, it could be any kind of disruption. But I think
Mm.
having some of these skills is also really beneficial, just from a personal confidence sense, of existing on this planet, realizing that, we actually can act with some agency and we don't have to be reliant on every level. It's sure more convenient to go to the store for all of our goods, but being able to produce something has been pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. There's just something about that empowerment that you get from, being able to do that, to grow something. And again, like I said, especially something that produces food, and you get that from it as well too. There's just something about it, like knowing that you can do that. It's just something that it does to it just does to. And again, my mind, I remember back when I first discovered growing and ate my first cucumber I grew, it was just such a big light bulb and this big, like, wow, I can't
Yes.
believe this. I can do this. I can actually grow things that are so essential really to me. And food is essential, when you can really produce something that's essential to your own life like that on that level. I think it's just really awesome. Right on, Cameron. Excellent, excellent, excellent. It's so awesome to have caught back up with you and get you. We got to get you back on too for another conversation though too, because there's so much more we could talk about. And again, too, thank you for taking your time to be here on the show with us this weekend. It's really great to have you here today.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Thanks, Enoch.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I got some other things and some other opportunities coming up too. So I'd love to have you back on the show and just dig more into this garden and stuff, and maybe get another look around as you get into your growing season and all of that as well too. But yeah, just really awesome to have you. And again, look forward to seeing you again coming up here, maybe sometime in the future.
Right on.
Excellent. Thanks, Cameron. We'll see you soon.
Yep. See ya.
Okay. Hey, gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits.
The answer to this week's trivia question is D. According to Britannica, there are more than 3,700 individual species in the Brassicaceae family. The most common of these, like broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage, belong to the Brassica genus. Thanks for watching. Head over to Sarah's Seed Shop, where you can find garden seeds at unbeatable prices. Enjoy the rest of the show and have a great day.
All right, all right, all right. Did you get the answer to Sarah's trivia question this week right? I told you a little bit earlier. I didn't. I think I guessed like the 3,100 or one of those there too. And I didn't guess the last one. I was like, oh, it can't be the highest one. This is a trick question. But no, it was totally. And I can't believe there's that many. But that's one of the amazing things about gardening and growing too, as well. Kind of continuing on from what we were saying before too, is also variety. I mean, we talk about taste of things and all of that, and how things taste better out of our own gardens. Absolutely. But one of the cool things about growing and your own food and growing your own garden is that you get all these different varieties that are available out there that you can try of some of the things that you like. And just amazing how many there are of brassicas. And that really encompasses a lot of different types of plants as well too, from Brussels sprouts to cabbage, broccoli, those sort of things, which all actually, and I wonder if you all know as well too, derive from one plant. And I believe it was just a regular old field mustard, I think is something that many, many, many generations, I don't even know, well, hundreds of years ago maybe, got started breeding those into other types of plants and all of that through long time selective breeding to create all of these wonderful different brassicas that we enjoy today. So yeah, really great, awesome there too. Thanks again to Sarah for her trivia question this week. And again, go get all of your essential garden seeds over at sarahseedshop.com. You won't find a better deal anywhere for all those garden essentials. And definitely there's still time to get some of these summer crops and some of these things that you need to direct sow into your garden. If you haven't got them already, you can go get those there. Also, maybe you can start thinking ahead towards your fall garden as well too. So definitely go and get some of those seeds over there. All right, everybody. We got a really great guest here. Like I said, returning to the show today. Really exciting. But real quick here before we get moving on, I do got to let you know, I almost keep forgetting to tell you this part of the whole show here. But anyways, I want you guys to go check out our previous shows though too. I mean, we've had some great guests on the show this last week. In fact, this show, there's some good stuff. You definitely want to go and check out the show to go see our conversation with Sarah from Sarah's Seed Shop, as I was just saying as well too. But we had Jules Acton, author of the book Oak Lore. She just didn't have the best connection, so we're going to work on getting her back on the show here real soon. I got an idea, some things we'll talk about coming up on our Sunday edition and all that sort of stuff too as well. But we'll hopefully get her back on the show here real soon so we can finish up talking about this wonderful book of hers. I really enjoyed this book, talking about ancient oaks over in the UK. Just some really great things to talk about there. So we'll have her back on to do that. And then it was Arbor Day kind of celebration. We're doing the whole birthday, gardening month, all that sort of stuff. But last week we were kind of talking trees. So last Sunday, on the Sunday edition, we had with us Tom Spellman from the Dave Wilson Nurseries. I mean, how cool is that to have Tom Spellman here to talk with us about tree care, as well as our sponsor, Charles Malky from Ivy Organics. We had a great roundtable conversation talking all about tree care. So you want to go back and check that out as well too. So, all right, let's get on to this really, really awesome guest that we've got here with us today. It's time for our featured guest.
You never know when you might learn something, and that's what this is about for me. These are people that I admire. Please welcome my next guest.
All right, everybody. I got that good Matthew McConaughey, all right, going on right now. I got it. It's just something I'm just doing. I just got it going. But anyways, it's time to talk with this really awesome guest. I'm so glad he's back on the show again. We had such a great conversation with him last time he was on the show with us. Let's welcome to the show, Dr. Jeff Pierce. How are you doing, Dr. Jeff? It's great to have you. Thanks for joining with us again today.
Thanks, Enoch. Very nice to be here. Great to see you. Loved listening in to what Cameron, your first guest, had to say. And it's just a joy to be back. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to have you back as well too. I've been looking forward to getting the opportunity to have you back and to kind of dig into some of the things we were talking about last time, and just kind of do that. But I will kind of right here, I've been kind of talking about this and I kind of teased it out a little bit, and I thought maybe we'll just talk about it right here at the very top of the conversation, because me and you've been kind of talking in the background over the last couple of weeks about it. An idea that kind of popped into my mind as I was telling you, like thinking about, like, when am I going to have Dr. Pierce back? Man, we got to talk to him about some more gardening as medicine. And so I was like, you know what? It would be great to have him back, but wouldn't it be great if we could have Dr. Pierce back, like almost on a regular basis, and be able to get to talk to you throughout the growing season and to discuss some of this stuff, which I think is so important. You remember I went and saw your talk you had at the National Heirloom Exposition last year, and I was just really amazed and impressed because it spoke to a lot of things I think that we kind of started to touch on with our last guest. Is that, it's really great. We want to encourage people to garden and do all that sort of stuff, but I think it's one of the when we start to learn and discover through our gardening journey all of these extra benefits we get from gardening, it's when we really start to see how like gardening stands out as one of these just really premier activities that we could do, in our lives on all different levels. You know what I mean? And then to listen to an actual doctor. I mean, we're talking actual doctor here, Dr. Jeff Pierce, actual doctor, to explain to people. And I'm going to have you do that here with us today a little bit more. We'll go over some of that stuff, but explain to people in a real things that made sense from a doctor's perspective about gardening as medicine. So maybe we can kind of touch on and dig into that. But again, though, that's what we're going to do here is we're going to invite Dr. Jeff back on every other month or so in order to have a catch up on a conversation and all of that. So he's going to be our very own house doctor, Dr. Jeff, right here on the Let's Get Growing show, everybody. So thank you, Jeff, for taking your time to be here and to share with us your expertise on a lot of this stuff and to help us get some really further insight into, again, what I think is one of the more premier activities that we could be doing as far as how we maintain our lifestyles.
Right on. Well, great to be able to share this information. I'm passionate about it. I know you are as well. I think this is information that just that we need to be talking about, that we need to get out. And, I think you can say, grow a edible garden because tomatoes taste awesome when you grow them yourself. And that's true. And that could be the end of it. But it's, of course, it's so much more.
Yeah.
Hi, Christy.
Yeah, I like this one here too. Sure. Oh, no. Oh, I don't know. Here, I'll be back on in a second. Hopefully you can still hear me.
We can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah.
There you go.
Man, I thought I had that figured out. Everybody. I'm still working on it, I guess. All right. Well, we'll still hear it though. But Cheryl was saying, what's up, Doc? I always wanted to say that. Right on.
see you, Cheryl. How you doing, Rick?
Yeah, excellent, excellent. But yeah, again, too, tell us a little bit more about, maybe, again, too, let's really kind of dig in on some of those points of that talk that you made that, the previous year on the National Heirloom Exposition. One last thing I'll say though, too, real bummer though that we just discovered recently they're not having one this next year, because I was hoping to talk them into having you back again for this next year so you could have a talk all on your own this next time. But we got you here. We're going to keep the conversation going anyways.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. Baker Creek Rare Seeds, such a great group, and they put on a wonderful heirloom festival. Been to it, like you, both in Santa Rosa, which is where I live, and down south in Ventura. And so, but they're still putting on great festivals over in Missouri, right? And so it's more of a drive or flight to get out there, but closer for some other.
I know, I got to get out there though, at least once.
Yeah. And what a cool, thanks for mentioning that talk from last year. What a great opportunity to speak with John Kohler of Growing Your Greens, who had the idea, let's get together and do this talk together. And that was a big pleasure.
Yeah, real quick, I was going to say though too, thanks to John Kohler for basically in the way bringing you on to do the talk, and then again, being able to get to introduce you and get to know you then as well too. That was really great. How did that kind of come about though? Really, I mean, did you know John because you guys are both, I guess, in the Santa Rosa area as well, at least
that's right,
during the time he's there anyways.
Right. Before he moved out to the desert,
right.
His home base was in Sonoma County, not far from where our little place is. And he, of course, is a mega YouTube superstar, doing such a wonderful job of spreading the word of just the benefits and how-to of gardening. And yeah, I think we connected on social media, and when he's like, I want to come out and let's do a episode at your place. I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. So, and it's great to have this friendship that has blossomed since then. He's a great guy, a sincere guy. John Kohler, as I say, is one of those people that when you watch him I hope I am too, and people say that about me as well when it comes down to it. But John Kohler is one of those people that when you watch his videos and you get to know him in person, he is that guy. He's an authentic person when it comes down to it. That's one of the things I really like about him, and it's so great to have become friends with him over the years and everything too. So, but like you said, great. Again, thanks, John, for the introduction anyways, but let's talk about this great talk, though, too, because John knew the importance of the sort of thing, and that's why he invited you, too, was to, these points about gardening are some of the things that we don't necessarily think about too much, really. We get into it, of course, some people for growing their own food because they do want that nutrition. They want to know where their food comes from and that sort of sense. So there is that sort of level of thinking, but there's a lot more than that goes into it as well, though, right? That's right. So I'll say just real briefly that I started off as a family doctor doing a mix of different types of work within the field of family medicine, and everything from HIV care in Africa to C-sections in the Oakland area, a place called Martinez, where I still work and teach residents. And along the way, and I've been thankful for all those steps in the journey, but along the way came across something called lifestyle medicine. And that's a newer field of medicine where you can also sit for the boards like you do in other fields of medicine. And they focus on if so much of our chronic illnesses, things like diabetes, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol, heart disease, these chronic conditions are the major cause of death and disability throughout most of the world. And since most of these conditions are actually not caused by our genes, but caused by what we do day in and day out, our sort of like health habits or life habits, what can we do to avoid them, to treat them, and to reverse these conditions using just really the healthiest habits out there? And so a bunch of research-based stuff that really spoke to me when I learned about it. And then as I became a doc practicing in that field, and also spending a ton of time growing a lot of our own food here in Northern California, I started realizing what an overlap there is, and how gardening really is one of the best medicines out there, particularly grown in edible garden, but there's benefits on multiple layers, even with ornamentals. But and yeah, so just started diving into literature, and narrowing it down just to a handful of points, to where it seems to be most beneficial. We can talk about those now.
Yeah, definitely. And sometime in some of our future talks, we're gonna have to dig into some of that, some of those other doctoring adventures you've been on, because I think you might have some pretty fun, amazing stories when it comes to some of that stuff. So we'll hold some of that, put a pin on some of that stuff, and we'll get into that as we get into some future conversations. But yeah, so let's kind of break it down. I think you had like, what was it, like 6 points to your conversation you had there?
Yeah. It depends a little bit on how we break it down, but yeah, let's focus on just a handful. So,
Yeah.
And we spoke a lot about this the last time I was on, so I don't want to. I'll try not to get bogged down in it. But of course, I love talking about this, so just reel me in when you need to.
No problem. No problem if we're actually, you know what I mean, in a way too, because I think sometimes a little repetitiveness on some of these issues too is kind of necessary as well too. So no bother on any of that.
Sure thing. Yeah, it helps me too when I'm learning. But
Mhm.
so number one is trying to eat basically grow what you eat and eat what you grow. And so much of our health is determined by what's on the end of our fork. And I certainly, much of my life was not eating in a healthful way. I was eating in what was a convenient way, and eating foods that really fire off on the pleasure centers of the brain, right? Foods that are these ultra processed foods, which are a major source of calories in our diet, maybe 50-60%, depending on where you're looking. Foods that are more engineered in the lab with just the right crunch and the right amount of salt, oil, and sugar. And these are very satisfying for a few minutes while we eat them, but they tend to be devoid of fiber, which ends up being one of the most critical components of our diet, because it feeds our microbiome, all those bacteria and fungi, et cetera, that live in our large intestine. And devoid of other vitamins and minerals and whatnot. So the more we can eat these whole foods from our garden, the better. And when you look at these blue zones, these areas around the world where research has showed the highest concentrations of healthy octogenarians, nonagenarians, centenarians, et cetera, with the least amount of chronic illness, their diet is maybe 80 to 90% made up of minimally or unprocessed plant foods. And we are probably the opposite of that. We probably get about 10 to 15% of our diet coming from healthy whole foods. So anyway, so that is part of the reason why I'm out in the garden every day that I can to try to grow a spring garden, summer garden, fall garden, winter garden, and try to keep it going all year so that we're getting great food year round.
Yeah. Again, too, the first real kind of thing that we think about as we're getting into this food journey and all of that, or growing our own food. And also another great point, though, too, besides this first point in growing food for that nutritional value and those sort of things that we get, there's also lots of value to growing flowers, ornamentals, being a gardener on that level as well too, for your health. And all of this as well too is just the health benefits we get from growing our own food is really important as well too. A part of that part of our gardening journey is people who grow food. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot more of. Sorry, say that again.
And then I think I kind of confused a question with a comment and muddled a couple things there too. I'm sorry, but
Oh, but it's good. No, it's good stuff. I think of
confused my own self. I'm sorry.
uh, I think about the beauty in the garden, whether it's edible plants or purely ornamental plants, because I certainly think that an edible garden can be ornamental, but even with pure things that
Yeah.
are just grown for the beauty of it, is beneficial as well. When we're
Yeah.
looking at the stress reduction, the sense of well-being that comes with gardening, the feeling more connected with nature. And so, yeah, I don't
And
tell
then all of
people.
these other points too, like activity and, all
Mhm.
of that as well too. You get all that other same stuff as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't tell people to rip up their, native garden or their ornamental garden or their rose garden or
Exactly.
whatever and
Yeah.
replant kale. But if you happen to be a food gardener, like I
Yeah.
think a lot of folks who follow you do,
Yeah.
I think there's some of those additional benefits because you have such ready access to super healthy foods,
Yeah.
and you're almost in a hurry to eat all this food that you spent all this love and time on, and you don't want to see it go to waste. And I don't have that connection with the produce section at the local store. It's like, if it goes bad, it's not my fault.
Right.
But I have a deep connection with the stuff that we grow. And so I want to let it go to fruition and not let it go to waste.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. And yeah, and another thing too is we were kind of touching on there with Sarah's trivia question today is another cool thing about growing your own food and getting this really tasty nutritional food is all the variety you can get too. So there's a lot of nutritional value in the varieties that we can obtain and are capable of growing in our own backyard gardens versus what we're able to get at a grocery store, at the market.
That's so true. So true. I grew up thinking that there was one kind of banana and that there
Right.
were about two kinds of apples, Granny Smith and Red Delicious, and that there was, maybe one type of orange, one type of lemon, one type of lime. And because that's all I saw in the grocery store. And then to have the ability to grow, uh, depends on your space and your time
Yeah.
and whatnot, but to grow just dozens and dozens of different varieties, and there's it's still developing science, but at least one big study came out, the American Gut Project in 2012, which showed that one of the markers for the healthiest gut microbiome, and of course we are realizing more and more how our gut microbiome is critical to our own health. But one of the markers for
Mhm.
having super healthy gut microbiomes is having a really varied diet. So having a bunch of different plants that are in your diet. So not just eating celery, and even if it's great celery, it would be better to have 30 different kinds of plant foods in a week, to really mix it up and to really feed the gut microbiome.
Yeah, and then through variation of variety as well too, take it back to our good friend John Kohler. One of the things he talks a lot about on a lot of his videos are eat your red things. So, look for those varieties of things within the things you like, lettuces, put some red lettuces into your garden spaces or, through those varieties we can find little extra bits of different types of nutritional value and things as well, right?
For sure. There's a nice chart that most people could probably find just by searching PCRM, Physicians Committee for Research. Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. Sorry, a little brain
Mhm.
fart there. And Eating the Rainbow, and they have a really nice little chart that shows just an overview of why it's great to eat our reds, oranges, yellows, greens,
Yeah.
blue, violet, etc. And yeah, so I was looking at my tomatoes that I'm planting, that I started from seed, a lot of which
Mhm.
came from Baker Creek, actually, but maybe a few
Oh,
others.
yeah.
and so many of them are black varieties. So I've got black Krim, and one
Those
that's
are good.
just called Black Tomato from Baker Creek, and one the Cherokee that's Purple Cherokee, I guess.
Purple Cherokee is a good dark
Yep.
one. I did all
Um,
darks one year as a theme.
Yeah.
There's one that Baker Creek has. I'm not sure if they still, I haven't looked, but I grew it a few years ago. It's a dark one and it's really great it's a Ukrainian variety called Black from Tula.
Okay,
Black from
yeah.
Tula. You want to
Okay.
grow a dark black tomato. That's probably the darkest, blackest, deepest color I've ever grown was that one. It's called Black from Tula.
Yeah.
Good stuff too.
Yeah, I love growing these different crazy heirlooms with the rich colors, and you're just going to get slightly different things from every different kind of fruit and vegetable that you're eating. The lycopene from the tomatoes, and the all the anti-cancer, anti-inflammation stuff from all the Brassica family. Sulforaphane is a word that some folks in your group have probably heard about as a great anti-cancer component of all the Brassicas. And so, yeah, just eat the rainbow, eat a wide plant, a wide variety of things, and eat a wide variety of healthy plants.
Yeah, exactly. And again, too, that's one of the cool benefits of being a gardener is that we have the best access to being able to do that. In our own home gardens, is to be able to have all of that, those multiple varieties of different things, or try new things from year to year and introduce all this cool different variety stuff, eating the rainbow, as you say, and just tons of great seed providers out there, Sarah's, Baker Creek, just all sorts of them that have all these just wonderful varieties of different things that, make, like I said, make the gardening experience so much better in how we can, confusing what I'm saying here. I'm sorry. But growing our own food, basically being able to grow our own food, being able to grow these multiple varieties, colors, and different things to get all these different types of nutritional benefits is something that we as gardeners really have the best access to doing versus being able to just go out to the market and buy that sort of stuff. So it really is a great reason just to have a garden just to begin with. It's just to be able to do that.
For sure. And I'll since we're talking about seeds, I'll put a plug in for making friends with your local seed savers. We have a group in a little town called Sebastopol, California called Community Seed Exchange, which they grow a community garden with the idea of just growing their stuff to save seed, and they do it in the right way to make sure that they're getting stuff coming true to seed, and then they just give it away for free. Basically, they accept donations, nonprofit, and it's awesome. They're a great group, and one of the big benefits of that, of course, is seed diversity, and then also finding stuff that is hyper local. So they have some things that have been grown in their community for just years and years and years, and they're 10-minute drive, 12-minute drive or something from my home, which has a higher likelihood of doing well in my house than something that was grown in Thailand with a very different climate. So big fan of finding your local seed library or seed savers.
Yeah. I think that's a great point, though, too. Something I've been trying to drive a lot lately. I actually talk about it just a little bit in my little pre-season garden tour that I got coming out this next week for one of our videos. I'm going to show everybody around the garden spaces and stuff. But this idea that look local for things, you know what I mean? And that's kind of been a real theme for me lately, is that's where we're finding our best stuff, especially like you're saying with finding a group that's doing seeds like that, because they're also growing them there where you're from. So these seeds are really going to have the genetics that are going to really be optimal for your garden in that local area. And that's one of the things that's really helpful as well. Like you said, on the level of seeds, getting things from as close to your home as possible that those seeds come from are going to be more successful for your garden in your space. Just like getting garden advice from a gardener, it's always best to get garden advice from a well-experienced gardener in your neighborhood, than, somewhere further away, or myself here if I'm states away, or all of that. It's good to get inspiration from us, but that local gardener is the one who's going to really have the best advice to help you succeed in your garden. So doing things locally is great, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Right on. Yeah, I'm just this year, I'm finishing my first year of being one of the University Extension Master Gardener volunteers, and
Yes.
they're a great group that are available in many communities around the U.S. and they push for following evidence-based suggestions, advice. And so find your local Master Gardener group, and they will have stuff very apropos to where you are. A tree that does well in Michigan might not do well in San Diego, and vice versa. So finding your local group so helpful. Yeah,
exactly. And yeah, your master gardeners, the closest university extension that you can find nearest to you, that sort of thing, is where a good base to start to find some of maybe those other more external local gardening groups, gardening clubs, other community gardens that might be around that you might not know of, that you could probably participate in as well too. But just get involved locally with your gardening community, and that's just a great way to succeed, and also to be able to find some really cool new varieties too that you might not have had for your garden, and meet some new gardeners to help you grow them.
Totally. It's a great conversation, and I realized that I probably should have given an overview of those healthy habits, and so maybe I'll do that now, Enoch, as kind of
absolutely.
So it acts as a bit of an anchor for me to come back to and whatnot. But so if the first one was trying to eat what you grow as a major source of your calories and nutrients. The others that I think about are so daily physical activity. We're a society that sits a lot for good reasons sometimes, and for but getting up and getting out and having things that nudge us to get out and up every day is important. And then the third thing I think about is social connection. We've already been talking about that with community gardens and what we're doing right now. And Enoch, what you do such a great job with your channel and with your show is just connecting with people, and you can tell just people are looking forward. I turned on the YouTube link at like a local time, like 11:58 or something. There are already people who had jumped on and were commenting. You hadn't even started your show yet. So the importance of social connection. Another one is trying to minimize toxins in our lives. And I think most doctors are thinking about cigarettes and excessive alcohol and street drugs and things like that. But certainly what's on our food and what's on our skin and what's in the air and God is a major component. And that ties in well to growing our own food. And another key healthy habit is getting sleep, getting quality sleep, and some things that we can delve more into, but things that help with getting sleep is getting outside with some sunshine on you early in the morning, and that helps reset the biological clock and helps us be ready for bedtime later on. It sort of speaks to the body in very natural ways that we don't get when we're inside under neon lights. And then the last thing that I think about in all this is dealing with chronic stress. And anybody who spends some time out in the garden doesn't need to be told that getting outside is good for lowering our stress. So anyway, that's the overview. Those are the things that I always think about and how it relates to gardening and whatnot.
No, all good stuff too. And there's lots within each of those sections basically that we can just really delve into and talk about, and we'll focus on maybe some of those individually more so throughout further discussions and things like that as well too, and kind of just deep dive on some stuff if we can. Really also too, I think, even kind of stepping back to where we were talking about community and other things, is that you kind of touched on another really kind of important part of that isn't just how we can find things to succeed in our garden, or find new varieties of seeds and things, because local is really great. Community gardens and community is really important just for that social interaction we get.
Yeah.
Right. And here's the thing that we all know as we hang out here each Saturday and Sunday together here on the Let's Get Growing show too, is that this is a space for us as a community that we all get together and we get to talk, whether it's in the chat or me here with the guests and all of that, is that we're building community, and we all have something that we share, that we enjoy. And then to be able to share that with each other, to talk with each other, to engage with each other, and all that sort of stuff really does a lot for our mental state of mind. Having community and interaction with other people is really, really important. And what better people to have interactions with than gardeners and people who share such a great, fun, passionate hobby or pastime.
Yeah, it's critical. It's critical. We're such social animals that have developed in tribes and packs and villages and all these social circles that in some ways are not as strong now as they were before, right? As
Yeah.
it's much easier to be siloed, and I'm on my video game du jour all day, and I can order food to be delivered to my door. I don't even have to make eye contact with the delivery guy. I can pay
Right.
him and he just drops it off. And it's that is greatly changed from the
Mhm.
getting your hands in the soil with your family and friends because your life depended on it. And so there's
Yeah.
good things and bad things that have come with technology, and we got to make sure that we don't lose the healthy social stuff. And it's different than pure social media, where obviously everyone's heard about the number of thumbs up and likes and hearts and things like that
Yeah.
does not equal the same thing as real connections. And so it's
Mhm.
important to get that all in. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's in a way too, that's where we got to separate because one of the things we get confused with, I think, and this is something I've thought about, is the idea that more and more so, and I've been doing this, a lot of folks do this, is we've created individualized brands in a way, right? So in some ways we can, social media is great, if you're looking at likes and things like that, if you're building a business, if you're building something, that sort of stuff, but not for just your interaction with folks and building community and stuff. Likes and numbers and things shouldn't matter whatsoever on a personal level. There's a difference between a personal level of how we interact with online activities versus a business level. And so I think there's a lot of confusion in that with a lot of people who get out there, and that's where you're talking, like, people are just like, oh, did this post get enough likes? Well, it's just a post about you and your cat, right? Or something, right? So
Yeah.
in the long run, what does the likes really, really matter, when it comes down to it? But if you're out selling cat products and doing those sort of things, then maybe that's a little bit more important, and you should be working and
Right.
engaging and doing certain things to do that sort of stuff when it comes to that sort of thing. So I think a lot of people get that sort of thing confused in a way,
Mhm.
and does that make
Yeah,
sense to you?
Yeah, that's a good point, because maybe as the business, you're like, okay, 1,000 people liked this thing on this cat toy, so we should
Yeah.
focus research and development on that, or something
Yeah.
like that, but not have your self-worth be based
On
on
that same
on
level
the
as it.
response to some post. And it's tricky, right? Because
Yeah.
a part of our just core is for most of us is just a certain amount of acceptance, because acceptance from the group, from whatever group, is often tied with survival, right? If you were the
Mhm.
loner back in the cave person days, that wouldn't go so well, right?
Yeah.
But if you
Yeah.
have acceptance from other folks, it's going to be linked with survival. So tying that into getting out into a community garden or gardening in your front yard so that you see your neighbors more, and chit chat about stuff, like all that stuff's maybe not important for day-to-day survival, but I think but important for our soul, like we've been talking about, like
Yeah.
for how it reflects with our state of happiness or depression and life satisfaction and things, very important things like that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's just definitely something I've been trying to be a lot more aware of myself too, because again, too, it is also kind of easy to get caught up on that stuff because in this day and age, myself, Enoch Graham, can be a brand on its own. You know what I mean? And a lot of people do and do that and build their own brands of their own selves, and then their person becomes a business. And
Mhm.
then that stuff then becomes even more clouded and more confused because you've attached yourself to a business sense of mind for your own personal, how you look at your own. It's just, yeah. And it's so hard nowadays because of the way things are built and how we can go about doing things on this level. But I'm trying to be more self-aware of that myself because I run right in the mix of this sort of thing, you know,
Mhm.
with my channel and what I'm doing and trying to build this stuff as a business versus I got a regular old personal profile, you know, and then I try to worry, how do I engage and what do I do on that level as
Mm.
well? Well, why can't I just go over there and be a person and just
Yeah.
be me, you know, and just call it good and not worry about it, right? And I got to engage with it more on that level versus, you know, trying to worry about, oh, are people seeing this way or seeing that way? Because that drags down on your mental health
Yeah.
because you're looking at yourself through a different lens in a sense, you know, that you probably shouldn't be when it comes down to it, to be on a more healthier level with yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Yeah, and gardening can help on so many levels to where
Mhm.
either you're gardening with other people, you're reaching out to other people for tips and tricks on how in the world am I going to treat this peach leaf curl in an effective way? What's working in your yard?
Yeah.
To you get a great harvest, and then you've got peaches coming out of your ears, and you want to share it with folks, or you bring people over for a dinner and just the pride and the enjoyment that you have to share food that you've had the success with to share with us. So there's on so many levels it just ties us together and
Mhm.
keeps us from siloing. And certainly our loneliness is um, a major epidemic. The Surgeon General put out something on loneliness. It's been one of the main focuses of his
Yeah.
work, and so we gotta pay attention to it. And it's not just lonely. Oh, I feel lonely, and that's not cool. But it's like if you studies show if you can't name a handful of people that you say that you can depend on and trust and they'll be there for you, and like these are the people that are more likely to die or have disability, as compared to folks who are like, oh yeah, I'm surrounded by a loving community. And yeah, so
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it becomes real important. And I think those first two little topics we've kind of touched on and talked about there too, you know, the health of the food we're growing, you know what I mean? Because one of the more important things for our health is maybe a little more attention to our gut biome, really healthy.
Mhm.
And then the
Yeah.
next one too is also how important it is for us to be thinking of our mental health and loneliness. I think is a
Yeah.
big one, like you said out there too, that creating and finding community. And it doesn't matter, it may not even be gardening if you're listening right now, you know what I mean? And gardening is just something you touch with and do whatever, but there's something else you really really enjoy that you do, and there's community around that. Get in there too, you know, find people and interact with people, human beings, have genuine conversations about things that you guys enjoy together. And you know, and again too, it's similar whether you find it in some other activities and hobbies other than gardening as well too. But finding that is, it brings us to such a healthier state of mind, having connections with others and just conversations where you can laugh and have fun because you guys know what you're talking about, you know what I mean? Because you guys interact with the same sort of things and have the same sort of passions and stuff, and that is really important, you know what I mean? So our food health, what we're eating, what we're taking in, plus also our mental health, really two huge things really to get started with. And gardening can be really play a big role in each of those, right?
For sure. Yeah, I think the concept, you can look at it a couple different ways. There's that concept of habit stacking,
Mhm.
and on one way, I think people talk about habit stacking like, oh, I brush my teeth every day, but I want to do better at push-ups. So every time I brush my teeth, I'm going to do 2 push-ups, and that's stacking your habits on a new habit onto one you already do. But I think another way people talk about habit stacking is doing one thing that incorporates many healthy habits at the same time. And so I think gardening is part of why it's so powerful. So because it does that, like I could love playing board games
Yeah.
socially and get a mental benefit from that. But then if I love gardening at the local community garden, not only am I getting the mental health and the social connection, but I'm getting the physical activity and the time in nature and the probably head of lettuce to go home with because it's
Mhm.
part of payment for volunteering for an hour or two. And so that's one of the things that I love about getting out in the garden is that it stacks so many things all at the same time. I mean, I can go to the gym and at the end I got, some sweaty clothes that I need to wash, but at the end of, 4 hours in the garden, I got to work out and, I've got, a basket full of blueberries, or whatever else you're
Mhm.
harvesting that day. Yeah.
Yeah. Or again, too, we can take it to those of you who love to just grow flowers or other things as well, too, because at the end of that day, too, you got
Yeah.
a beautiful looking place that you can go and sit in and enjoy and reflect and be able to kind of, do that as well, too, because you can get that from your space as well, too. But when you grow your own food, you get that added bonus of that nutritional food, that extra variety as we've been touching on and talking about, and being able to enjoy things that taste a lot better than what you get from the market and all that other stuff as well too. So a good garden with variety is probably what's best, really.
Right. It's great.
And another thing too, though, ornamental gardens. You brought up something I thought was great earlier too. That I think is great too. Is that even a lot of food type plants as well too can be ornamentals.
Mhm.
In some ways too. So you can include some food things in your ornamentals because they are kind of cool and neat and bring some kind of stuff. I grew this variety of peppers I got from one of our viewers. She's been watching our show for a long time, and she sends me these seeds for this Chinese 5-color pepper, right? And it's a really cool pepper plant. It just bushes out really nice and grows just hundreds of these pepper pods,
Wow.
but they all color at different times from each other,
Mm.
and they all colored about 5 different shades of different colors, from purple to peach to the bright red finish, some yellow or whatever in between. So you get all these colors and it looks like a Christmas tree almost out, or a little Christmas bush out in your
Yeah.
garden. And so I would grow those just for an ornamental, because they look so cool in the garden and all of that as well too. And then you could
Sounds
always
awesome.
powder them down and have some hot pepper powder to add to your food and everything to spice it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right on, right on. So let's see, what was the next one that you were touching on too there? Activity, exercise, getting outdoors. That was another big thing though too when it comes to gardening though, and as medicine and health as well too. Like you said, a lot of us just, whether it's our jobs or just, the way life is anymore, sometimes some of us just get into the habits of just sitting a lot throughout the day. And sometimes we just need a prompt or a reason or something that's just going to motivate us to get up and move, get some activity going, right?
For sure. Yeah. When I think about, if I don't go to the gym, I actually don't have a gym membership, but for folks who are or who have a gym membership and they're like, if I don't go to the gym today, maybe I let myself down a little bit. But if I don't go outside to tend my brand new seedlings, like they might, maybe they'll get fried in the sun, or maybe they'll get eaten by the slugs, or whatever the challenge du jour in your garden. And so it does nudge us to get up and get out, and so we're more likely to do it. I think it's similar a bit to the benefit of saying, okay, I'm going to go for a run or go to the gym with my buddy, and she or he is depending on me to show up. Like we've got that social contract, and
Mhm.
we just have, if you've got a garden, you just have 200 friends waiting for you to get out to the gym with them that day, and they're really depending on you.
Yeah.
But yeah, the physical activity is a big one. We our lives are constructed to where we're sitting all day, many of us, and it's sometimes it's almost inevitable. And so trying to do something that gets you up and out is key. And I used to think, like if it's not a big run or lifting big heavy weights or something like that, it's not a workout. But the best workout is the one, they say the best exercise is the one that you will do, number one. And so, for some folks, it's working out real hard in January with the New Year's resolution and then not working out February through December because of how tough New Year's resolutions are to keep and whatnot. But so if gardening or a stroll around your block or whatever happens to be the thing that you can do every day or most days, that's going to be better than a month of HIIT training, high intensity training, in January next to a resolution. So the best exercise is something that we'll do. And there are official recommendations for exercise for the American population, and that's for a minimum of 150 for adults, 150 minutes of aerobic exercise a week as a minimum, and a couple of days of strength training, and working out in a garden can satisfy all that. It's aerobically, it's about, like, depending on what you're doing, it's like a hike. Sometimes it's more strenuous than that. Sometimes it's less, but it averages out as like going for a good walk. And but then when you're lifting compost buckets and water buckets and all this kind of stuff, then you're also getting weightlifting and range of motion and stretch and all that kind of stuff in. So it all adds up, even though, if you're talking to 25-year-old version of me, I'd sort of scoff at the idea that that's actually exercise.
Right. Yeah, it definitely is, though. Believe me, I've been doing a lot of that working out lately, for sure. It's always, I think there's just a little bit more of that, especially as we're getting gardens prepared and working through the
Spring.
Into the spring and all of that, versus later on harvesting. It's still a good workout, but getting a garden going is probably the real workout. Cheryl asks, how do you get more people to garden? No matter what I have said and shared, people, and here's the caveat, are not, she says, not gardening for nutritional health. Do you
It's
have
a
any
good question.
ideas of like ways you can motivate or think about getting others to try the gardening
Yeah.
experiment? I guess experiment for them, I guess it would be at first. Does it work for you? Do you find more activity? Are you finding better results from the food you get and eat out of the garden, that sort of stuff? So how do we get more people to do that?
Yeah, I know various ways to do it. From a doctor standpoint, I created a handout to encourage people to get out and garden. Actually, maybe that's something that we could figure out how to share with your audience. But
Yeah.
so I've got a little handout that says, these are some of the health benefits of doing this, and some of the other benefits, some cost saving benefits and whatnot. And then I think, inviting people to your garden, letting them see the beauty, and letting them taste the fresh tomato at the height of summer, the peak ripeness, where they're like, wow, that's totally different than anything I'd buy at the local store. And then in reminding them, hey, I happen, they're in your garden and they're like blown away by your 33 raised beds that you have to spend 4 hours a day to manage, and just remind them that you could start with one pot, one pepper in a pot, or some microgreens on your windowsill, and not feel like you have to jump in with both feet to make it worthwhile. Because I think there's a fear, because there seems that there's maybe so much that you have to know to jump in if you're first starting. It's easier to go to your first spin class perhaps than to commit to raising something over 6 months, when you don't have the experience doing it. So bring them along, get them, hey, will you go to the community garden with me on Saturday? And they experience a little bit of that. Invite them over to your house for the potluck, where you've got your your harvest and all that kind of stuff. But I hear you. It's funny. I was about to say it's not for everyone. It used to be for everyone, right? Like if you didn't grow your own food, you weren't living.
That's right.
Before we got, a community market of some sort in our ancient villages, everybody was growing their own food. And
That's
now, when you look at, depending on what the estimate is, but still maybe 1 out of 3 of us are, maybe somewhere around 30% are growing some of our own food, which I think is still a decent number, but it probably used to be 99%.
Yeah,
Things have changed.
exactly. Things have
But it's
definitely
still,
changed. It is definitely a different time than the times when they were, when people had to grow and do all that. And you think about, like, again, too, coming back to variety, think about 3,700 different types of brassicas. Think about the different massive amounts of carrots and just all that sort of stuff. And we have all of these different varieties and different heirlooms and different things because people back then, everyone used to have to grow. So there'd be all different varieties from wherever you lived and different things everywhere. And that's why there's so much. And nowadays we're just trying to hold on to that stuff because we're trying to, maybe less and less people, the more and more populated we get. But I think, you're exactly right on there too. And I've been kind of talking about this last month. It was kind of our theme this last month in April was National Gardening Month. And that was kind of the thing I motivated people every week was the idea of let's make a plan to when our garden's at its most optimal, maybe when we're and when we got it, let's go around our neighborhood or get some of our friends and family or people we know who don't garden, who probably would benefit from it the most, and invite them over. One of the things I was suggesting to people too is if you have a garden and kind of coming back to what you're talking about with that local organization you had in your community with their seeds, right? Well, maybe you got a few things you save seeds from in your garden, and you can go and introduce yourself to some of your neighbors. For me, I've been here for a long time. A lot of my neighbors already know me, but there's a few people who've moved in the last couple of years. And I'm going to go over and I'm going to give them some seed packets and introduce myself. For one is a good idea to make sure you know your community. Introducing yourself is a great way to do that. And again, too, that's a good way to get a neighbor to help keep an eye on your own place too, is knowing them as well too. So that does create safety in the neighborhood as well. You get that added benefit. But I'm going to go over and give some seeds. Invite them over. Like, hey, I'm going to come over. I'll show you what these plants look like when they're growing, and I'll show you how easy they are to grow in your own backyard. And then not only that, as gardeners, we all know we're ready to garden and grow. If someone wants some help, we can take that extra step and help, get a shovel out and help them dig up some space. Maybe show them how to mix up some good soil to get them started, but show people how literally, really easy gardening can be. It is not all of this, like you were saying, Jeff, is that I think there's a lot that comes to a lot of people with the confusion of how hard gardening possibly is, because immediately when you think about growing plants, it's like, oh, well, how do I do this? I've got to do this, or how do I care for that? So a lot of questions come to mind right away for anybody who might be pondering the thought of gardening. And if we as gardeners can do anything to eliminate some of the, I don't want to say confusion, probably isn't the right word, but just the idea of so much that comes at people who are trying to learn how to grow something, because that was a big thing for me too. I had to learn. It took me a few seasons before I started going, oh, wait a minute, I didn't need to do all of that. Gardening is really just this simple. I just do this, and we just get things growing. And I think that if we can do that to help people, then we can help more and more people, bust through that kind of ambivalence or wanting to, or not wanting to take on something they might think is a little harder than what it really is.
Yeah, well said. Well
Yeah.
said. From an urban gardening standpoint, I remember watching years ago Rob Greenfield, if you know about
Hmm.
Rob down in San Diego
Yeah.
area, right? And he was like, I don't have my own property really, so I garden at like 3 different neighbors' houses. And
Yeah.
so he was doing his gardening at someone else's place that just had a lawn, right? And so maybe that's another way to where it's like, hey, I will supply this, this, and this. Let me use your water, and then, and that's like, oh wow, look, I can share some of this produce that this guy's growing and learn some tips along the way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And that's really how we build and bring in more gardeners, though, right? Is to be kind of not just a welcoming community, because I know the gardening community is just full of just amazing people. This audience is full of amazing people. You know, we have amazing people who show up as guests each and every week in our conversation discussions we have. I know for sure, out of all of my years being in the gardening community, this is such an amazing community. But not only can we be welcoming, but we can also be a little proactive. Let's go
Yeah.
out there and let's go find some gardeners. Let's bring them in. Let's show people how really wonderful this can be, because it's not just that we get, again, too, all this good food or a beautiful garden space and all of that, but we also get so many other things that come along with a gardening experience, you know. And I talk a lot about that sort of stuff. We touch on and bring other guests when we're talking about the mental health aspect of stuff. I went through a lot of really rough stuff when I was early in my gardening experience. And it was a lot of that coming, like you're saying, uh, the end of the day out of the garden, right? And maybe I started the day and it wasn't such a great day because I've got a lot of this other stuff on my mind and it's weighing me down. But I went and spent a few hours in the garden, and I come back in the house and I'm kind of like uplifted a little bit, like, wow, that really helped me out. It was just kind of sit with some of those thoughts, but also care for some nature and stuff like that. So there's a lot of that sort of stuff that comes with it. And I think when people and gardeners discover that part, especially the new ones that we're trying to bring along and all of that, when they discover that part, that's what seals the deal when it comes to
Mhm.
gardening. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, I didn't know I was going to get all of this with this too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well said.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And like I said too, I want to get in and just dig in about this more and more over, the coming months and throughout this season here with you. As we talked about at the beginning of this conversation, everybody, we're going to be having our Dr. Jeff. Dr. Jeff Pierce, MD, right here, our special in-house doctor for the Let's Get Growing show, back again I think we're working, like every, like couple months or so right now. But, if we find more reasons or something down the road, we'll work that out. Just kind of feel this out and see how it goes. But we'll have Dr. Jeff back as a regular contributor to really dig into some of this stuff that I think is really, really important when we're talking about these other aspects of gardening. And there's, like we mentioned too, we touched on just a couple of levels today, and we dug in just a little bit on some of those sort of things. And I think each and every one of these sort of things, as coming out of that talk that we were talking about, and even more so that even I know you probably got to contribute and bring to the table later on as well too. So there's so much awesome stuff we get to talk about throughout the growing season. And thanks, Jeff, really, really, for jumping on board and participating with all of this too, because it's just really great to be able to hear you talk about all this.
Well, thank you. I enjoy the chance to chat with you about it. It's it's just very comfortable on your channel, and you got great folks who are tuning in, and I think this is important stuff to think about. Life changing kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And anytime we can talk about ways that we can do things that are fun, that also help us, stop taking diabetes medicines and lower our risk for heart
Yeah.
attack. I mean, like, what a great combo, right?
Yeah, I really want to dig into that. I think coming up in our next conversation too, I think was one of the more fascinating parts of that talk you gave was this idea of reversing things, through food and nutrition and gardening, and which, could help provide all of that. But yeah, I think that's just fascinating as well too. So again, like I said, so many awesome things we can just dig right into.
Looking forward to it.
Excellent. Excellent. Right on. Right on. Anything else you want to share with us here before we finish up today?
No, I think it's a pleasure to speak with y'all, and I'm looking forward to the next time we can do it.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. You got it. And real quick here, though, Serena did drop in a question here real quick. Is there a plant that helps reduce nicotine cravings for people who want to quit smoking? That's an interesting one right there, huh?
Yeah, great question, Serena. I don't know off the top of my head. I think um, quitting smoking is key uh, for so many reasons, and whether we're talking about you or a loved one that you are thinking about how to help. Um, but I think at this point, everyone knows that smoking can affect our health on multiple levels. From heart disease to cancer, et cetera. And there are various ways that the medical community can help folks nowadays. A very small percentage of people, I don't know what the number is, but are successful with stopping cold turkey, as they say. But now there are, combination approaches where there's counseling plus a medication or a patch or a nicotine gum plus something else. And there's a physician, Judd Brewer, who has a great program for that can also help with quitting smoking. So maybe search for Dr. Brewer to see if, off the top of my head, I don't remember what it is, but it's about breaking habit loops. I'm just going to look it up while we're talking here for a second. Here, if you just look up, so this should be his work here. Maybe what we'll do is, if there's a way we can put it in the show notes or something, Enoch, and that will be helpful for that.
Is there a specific website?
Yeah, I'll get it to you, because the one that I was looking for is not popping up.
Okay.
But yeah, as soon as I find it, then I'll share it with you, and I'll either put it as a comment in that you can take it from or something. But yeah, it's
drop in the comments and drop it in there, or you can send it to me and I can try to add it to the description below. So hopefully later, for those on maybe the replay and all of that too, we'll make sure we can get that link set there up there as well too. Yeah.
Oh, actually,
smoking is an important thing to do. Yeah. Oh, sorry. What's that?
Sorry, Nick. There's a bit of a delay, but yeah, I found it. I'll just drop it in now, and he has an app that's called Unwinding Anxiety, and also one that's helping with quitting smoking. They're related. I think it's called there's one Unwinding Anxiety, one on Eat Right Now, and one called, I think, To Quit, which that one probably is focusing on the tobacco. But I'll put the link. He's got good stuff. He's a psychiatrist, and I'll put it in right now.
Excellent. Yeah, quitting smoking is really, really an important thing. I'll tell you that. I was a long-time smoker myself. I quit over a decade ago now, but I smoked for a long time, and it was something, I think, for me, ultimately, after I finally did quit, when looking back, was like something that we build up so mentally. And that's a problem with addiction, is it becomes such a mental thing also as well. And when I was finally able to quit smoking, it really was a cold turkey situation. I had to walk away, and I had to push myself through it. But I found that once I made it through those first few days, it got easier and easier the few days after that. And after a couple of weeks, I looked back like maybe a month later after I quit smoking, was like, oh, wow, that actually wasn't as hard as I made it out to be. You know what I mean? On a personal level, mentally. And that's really is overcoming that mental challenge at first. And if you can do that and get yourself through those first 3 days, then just stay on top of it. And we're all here with you because it's so important to quit smoking, because it really is an awful, awful habit that we get caught up in. You know, a lot of us at young ages, and it just really, really is unfortunate. But if we can quit, that's a great thing. Awesome, awesome, Jeff. Again, thank you so much for being here today. We look forward to the next time around. We'll dig into a whole bunch more about how gardening as medicine can improve our lives and our health. There's just so many awesome things to talk about. Again, thank you so much for being here with us, Jeff. It's really, really great conversations.
Thanks, Enoch. My pleasure.
Excellent. All right. See you later. All right. Again, here we go. All right. Matthew McConaughey would be proud of me today. That's for sure. Right. Anyways, such a great conversation again with Dr. Jeff Pierce joining with us here, talking about gardening as medicine. And again, too, going to be really fun for us as a show too, as we're moving forward in the growing season throughout this year, to be able to catch up with him and continue this conversation even more, as we can really get a good narrowed focus on our health, as we're thinking about our gardens and all the wonderful things that we get to grow and do. So again, too, what a wonderful, awesome addition. Thanks to Dr. Jeff Pierce for being a part of our show. It's just really, really adds to what we offer here on our show, and makes this just, again, too, one of the great places to be here. If you like gardening and you love growing things, you know, each and every Saturday and Sunday, as I say here on the Let's Get Growing show, such great conversations we get to have with all these amazing, awesome guests. And if you are looking forward to seeing our show coming up, like I said, we've got some great shows happening here real soon, except for, as I said, we are here every Saturday and Sunday. I'll put this up, but except for this next Saturday, I did have to make the final decision with another thing I've got going on. It's just really the only time period I can to do what I need to get done, in this sense, for me and someone else. So I really, unfortunately, can't do the show next week. A really bummer. But we will be here for the Sunday show, again, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. We'll have our Sunday edition of the Let's Get Growing show. As we do, again, we'll be here tomorrow. We'll start off with tomorrow, anyways, for our Sunday edition. We'll be here talking about what's growing on in our friends' gardens. We've got Pearson Wilhite with us here, and Rebecca from Happy Heart Gardens. We'll do a little garden roundtable discussion tomorrow, and have a fun conversation with those great gardeners. And then, like I said, next Sunday, on the Sunday edition, we'll have a community show. Now, I've been wanting to do this and set this up ahead of time so I can let all of you guys know, and we'll kind of promote it a little bit throughout the week. But we're going to do our community show next Sunday. So I'll come on and we'll get together. I'll hand you or put out our link to our show. So like an old school radio show, call-in show, where you can call in and talk about what you've got growing on in your garden. You can jump on and join us on video here on our live show, and we'll have a conversation with all of you. We've had so much fun doing this the last couple of times. I can't wait to see and talk with all of you again this next Sunday. So this next weekend, no show on Saturday, but Sunday is all about you. Next Sunday is all about you, the viewers of the Let's Get Growing show. So definitely come and join with me next Sunday, so that we can hang out together, talk about what's growing on in your gardens, and have a really fun discussion with all of you who join with me each and every weekend here to talk with all of our great guests. Also, too, remember, on our Sunday edition of the show, too, that's when we have, on our third Sundays, our monthly gardening book club with our good friend Mark Boucher Colbert, NBC. We'll be doing our monthly gardening book club. For our May selection, we have Craig LaHoyer, the author of Epic Tomatoes joining with us on the show for our monthly book club of May. This is an amazing book. Both me and Mark talked about on our last book club when we announced this book about how we've been to the bookstore many times, and we've seen this book many times, and we've wanted to buy this book many times over the years, but now I finally have a reason, and I have it in my possession now. I'm reading it, I'm loving it. It's full of so much great stuff about growing tomatoes. We all love growing tomatoes, so we're going to talk about Epic Tomatoes with Craig LaHoyer for our monthly gardening book club this next month. So join us on the third Sunday of May to talk all about tomatoes with our friend Craig LaHoyer there. And let's see, what else was it? Don't want to forget too about next Sunday edition of the show. It's not just a community show too. So it will be we're going to do a community show, but we're also going to have, I want to make sure I got this right. So next Sunday, we should be also having our In the Garden segment. So we're going to have a special announcement for our In the Garden segment coming up on the next Sunday show too. So we got some great announcements. We did one today. We're going to do one next Sunday as well to talk about all of that growing on the Let's Get Growing show. All right. Excellent, everybody. And lots and lots going on here. I look forward to seeing all of you here. And I have one last special thing to show all of you, because I know every now and then I see this as we're finishing up the show and you guys jump on there. And it's been a while since we saw her. Y'all know I became a grandfather this last year. And I shared with you some pictures a while back ago of my little granddaughter, but she was here hanging out yesterday right here on the show set. So we snapped this little shot of us hanging out together yesterday. So I thought I'd share that with all of you. There's my little granddaughter, Layla. She's about to celebrate being 1 year old already. Almost 1 year old. I can't believe it. But what a little beautiful girl. And again, too, what a way to end the show today. What a great time hanging out with all of you. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And if you can, real quick, before you leave, hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button as well as the bell notification, and share with all of your garden friends. Let them know about all of our fun conversations here on the Let's Get Growing show. Follow all the links down below in the description to our guests. Go let them know that you saw them on the Let's Get Growing show. Go catch up on one of their local or one of their recent posts or videos or something like that, and let them know you saw them here too. I always love it when you guys do that. Go visit Ivy Organics, our sponsor too, as well, at ivyorganics.com. Use promo code GROW10 in their shop there and get yourself some of that 3-in-1 plant guard. It's such a great thing to have in your garden shed. Make sure you got some of that. Definitely. And like I said, go check out Sarah's Seed Shop as well too. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. It was so fun to hang out with you, and I look forward to seeing all of you once again tomorrow. We'll be right back at it. We've got a great roundtable for all of you, so I'll see all of you tomorrow.